if the experience does feel overwhelming a little bit, well, that's intentional too. The project is a visual op-ed, so an opinion piece published in the New York Times that tells the story of my journey with long COVID, a chronic illness that I've been dealing with for the past 4 years, using the language of painted data visualization to go through a really huge amount of data that I collected about the illness. It was obviously a strange process, as I have been the subject of the piece and the designer and the compiler of the data. I feel that I wore different hats at times in the process, especially in the beginning, but then it all sort of came together for me. Ultimately, what I've been doing my whole life is it's telling visual stories with data. And I remember that at some point when I really put together the idea of these brush strokes representing symptoms and using this sort of like warm and fuzzy, imperfect language to describe those data, because those data are not perfect numbers, 52 versus 58. They're more rendering of like a complex condition that fluctuates. I think that once I got to defining the visual language and to go through it almost these identities reconciled for me, as in like now I'm not only the subject matter, I am also the person just bringing it all together with the tools that I've used my entire life, which is data and visual storytelling. So I think that then it became very organic for me to be leading the story part, translating into the data and guiding my team to the actual design and development process. A strange role to play for sure, but I really want to say that Jeremy at the New York Times has been fantastic to guide me and to guide us into how to bring my voices up, the voices of my story written in words, the voices of the data visualization, and the voices of the data itself. At times the experience may feel overwhelming, especially at the time where, you see the brushstrokes piling up with the additional symbols and you start to read 47 different doctors for a total of 237 doctor's appointment and all of that, and it feels a lot. And again, sometimes you can't convey experiences only with words, and that's why I decided to not write a blog post or like a normal article. But I feel that overwhelm in a way of the amount of information that is out there conveys the experience of a lot of us. The amount of information that you also have to take in to solve this mystery is for a lot of us really overwhelming. So if the experience does feel overwhelming a little bit, well, that's intentional too. This piece is the story of me, but I never wanted it to only be mine. And so I reached out to members of the long COVID community that I connected with online and asked them to respond to this one prompt. I hope I will be able to blank again. And the piece ends with these white paper cards that are filled with these heart-wrenching hopes from people that say, I hope I can walk my dog again, play with my children, or simply live a life free of symptoms anymore. Some of the hopes there are so moving. Sometimes when I keep scrolling through the piece and there's hundreds of them, I still wipe to tears. Something shifted with me after the piece got published, actually, and a few months after. So as I was starting to sort of like experiment with new therapies that started to get me better, I have decided to change my data collection and to start a completely new data collection. Ones that didn't track symptoms anymore, but they started to track only the progress that I was making. And I retired my smartwatch that I used to track my biometrics with, because truthfully it was giving me more bad news about my health than good news, and I didn't need to know that. The data that you choose to look at are also the data that shapes a bit of your reality. That's not to say that tracking the symptoms and putting out these piece didn't have a place for existing. I'm glad that I did it. It helped me crack some mysteries and keep me sane in a moment of uncertainty, and I know that it made a lot of people feel validated.